architecture and design, and I'm an architect, planner, and also an urban designer with a practice background from Singapore. It gives us great pleasure to welcome our founder chairman, Professor Dr. V.R. Rajendran, and the members of the management who are present in this lecture. All your participation is very valuable. I welcome my dear CAD students, my learned colleagues at CAD, and members of the architecture practice fraternity to this lecture on architecture and the senses of encounter. I welcome the members of the organizing team, Professor Tamur Yeril, Professor Krishna Sudha Madam, Professor Yeril Arasan, and a special thanks to Architect Shrija and Professor Dushyant for coordinating with Architect Daniel on this lecture. The CAD lecture series germinated in the first month of inception of the institution itself, and we made it public and open since the day one. Because of the core value of any institution is to disseminate knowledge to the society where it thrives. And internally, it has helped our students to build their focused interests in the key disciplines related to architecture and set their future career direction. These lecture topics and the content delivered build a scaffold to the ongoing academics at CAD also. CAD is affiliated to Anna University, one of the oldest technical universities in India, and approved by the Council of Architecture India. It is one of the very few standalone architecture institutions purpose-built for a studio-based design course such as architecture. With this, I would like to give a very quick introduction to the speaker. Architect Daniel Corsi graduated from the Mackenzie University School of Architecture and Urbanism in 2003 with the Miguel Forti and Teleforto Cristofani prizes for his final work, Communication and Information in the Architecture of Digital Age. Completed his master's degree at the University of Sao Paulo, SAU, in 2012 with the dissertation, Three-Dimensional Acts, Manifestations of Existence, Interfaces Between Architecture and Sculpture. Professor at Mackenzie, SAU, graduate and postgraduate programs since 2010 at Escola da Cidade since 2015, having also taught at SENAC, SAU. He has worked in important architecture offices in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Mexico, and Barcelona, Spain. After professional experiences in his country and abroad, he consolidated his practice by founding the CHN office in 2007, later Corsi Hirano Arquitetos in 2010. In 2018, the office assumes a new structure as Atelier Daniel Corsi, ADC, an architectural-based established in Sao Paulo, whose activities embrace the fields of architecture, urbanism, and design, as well as academic researches. We are really looking forward to hear from you, Architect Daniel Corsi. The screen is all yours.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Do you hear me well? Do you see me well? Yes?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Just to confirm, well, good morning here in Brazil. We are now at 7 a.m. So it's really good to be here. I'd like to say some thanks here. First, Mr. Vinod, thank you so much for the introduction, but mainly for the invitation. It's really a honor to be here with you. I'd like to thank also Mr. Rajendran, Mr. Dushyant, the Professor Tamil, Professor Krishna, Professor Azil Lazaran, and also thanks two really important people who opened our doors to be here today. And this is Miss Srija Nadipinani, who is an architect from Chennai, and Mr. Eduardo Dugais, who is a Brazilian architect that was also in Europe. And so they were the responsible for us to be here today and to connect our countries. And so thank you so much for both of you, because without you, we would not be here today. And so again, thank you for all of you. Thank you for the presence. I will talk a little bit more about this, but it's really, really important for me to be here closer to India. This means a lot to me. So thank you. I hope I can share with you some good things and you like the thoughts, and it will be a pleasure to hear you about. I mean, just like your thoughts, your way of understanding architecture today. So, may I start now the presentation? Yes. I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, here it is. Okay. Does it works? Yes. Yes. May I proceed? Yes. You listen to me?
Yes, Mr. Daniel.
Okay, okay, okay. Well, so I will proceed with the lecture. Thank you again for the Chennai Academy of Architecture and Design. Like I said, it's really important for me to be here talking to you in India. And there's a lot of reasons about that. And one of them is that we are actually in the other side of the world, but in some manners, we have really similar questions that we are dealing with culture, with economics, with politics also, but with urbanism and architecture. So, although we have a lot of difference, we have also similarities, and that's a reason why it's so important to exchange thoughts and to exchange experiences on both sides for us to learn with each other. And this is what I would like to say also, because I had the opportunity to learn a lot with India, and this is really within my person, really engraved in the things I had experienced in my life. And so I am in São Paulo, the city where I live, where I work, and it's a really huge city, just like Chennai, just like Mumbai, and it's a city that, for of course, is full of good things, and but has also a lot of challenges because we have a lot of contradictions. And so this is a really famous photo about a Brazilian photographer called Tuca Vieira that was really spread worldwide. And it's a photo that shows the limits of a really rich neighborhood in São Paulo and a really poor neighborhood in São Paulo. And this limits is really violent. I mean, how those people share the same city, how those people share the same places, but in a more peaceful way, and also in a more democratic way, meaning social and economics topics. And so inequality is really a problem, and inequality is also in the city and its spaces. And so this is one question that I really would like to talk about with you in the projects, in the process of thinking architecture. And these limits are really growing in the world. I'm showing Brazilian images, but the question of the walls or the various types of walls that we are building around the world, it's really worried, because like this happened in Brazil, it's really symbolic. This necessity to build a wall in the capital of the city to separate left and right parties, so, and manifestations, so people would fight. It's really worrying, because how can we share things and not be apart? And like I said, this is just an example of what is increasing in the world. And we, as architects and urbanists, I believe we have a great part to collaborate to not this to happen, but the opposite, how to integrate and how to make people share again the world we live. And like I said before, India is really important to me. Me and my wife, we had the privilege to be in India a few years ago, and this was the trip we made. It was a really long trip. We spent almost a month and a half in India, and I took a long time to go to your country. And this is because I really waited for the right moment to be prepared to go to India and to see it in the most profound way. And I want to tell you that it's really, really amazing. I mean, this experience changed my life, changed my way to see things. And this is why I'm telling you so repeatedly that it's really important to me to be here talking with you and getting closer with you. Of course, unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the south, but I hope to come back one day. And the diversity of things and the bigness of the country is also something that we share in Brazil. And this is really impressive because we can produce and we can experience so much richness of people and of culture. And this is some pictures that I took in my trip. And I'd like to tell you that the streets and the life that comes from your streets are really something that I've never seen before. It's so powerful. It's really, really amazing because it's a kind of vibration. It's a kind of ways of sharing and this energy that comes from people being together. That is really impressive. And I think just like we also have this, of course, in Brazil, and but this is what the streets should be: spaces of encounter. And so, like so many other things, so many other characteristics that impressed me in India, this was one that I, a lot of times, found myself just staring at the streets, like stopped and just looking, and things going around in a way that really enchanted my eyes. And of course, I'd like to mention here an architect that for me is very, very important, and you have the privilege of having buildings from him in India, that says the following, that the streets must be supreme. It's the first institution of the city. The street is a room by agreement, a community room whose ceiling is the sky. The institutions of the cities can be made greater by the power of their architecture spaces. This, for me, is like a mantra, if I could use this word, that helps me to think that as architects, and these architecture spaces may be also responsible for the quality of life of our people. And it's about these space that I like to tell about you today. This, for example, is in São Paulo. It's the Museum of Modern Art from Lina Bobardi, that in sometimes are seen like this. Not exactly like this, unfortunately, with so many people, but it's this space. The museum is on the top and underground, but this is the most important space. It's the void. It's the space between things. This is the Faculty of Architecture of the University of São Paulo from Artigas, that also it's an interior space, but besides of the program, the void is also the main important space where people can meet. And this is another really important project in São Paulo, that it's the Ibirapuera Park from Oscar Niemeyer, that it's just a roof, no program, no activities that are rigid or fixed. It's just an open space. And those spaces are really important. And this is what I try always to seek in the projects. And so I think what helped me to think about this, it's to understand architecture as an act. I mean, as something that we always put in some pre-existing place. There are things that always comes before architecture. Architecture is not lonely. It's different. It's always related to something that already exists. This is important because we need some respect for this pre-existence and to know it well, to then know how to act. And the other thing that is really important is to know that we are creating meaning for people. And this make me ask, what do we then manifest with these meanings? What can architecture mean? And I think there's a path, there's a way that this is not a method. I don't want to like it. I don't like to call it a method, but these are words that always comes to my head when I'm thinking about architecture. And although it's not a method, they are like floating in the head for things that I have to remember. How do I position myself on those themes? So I have society and I have the human being, the collective and the private. And each of them have their own questions about politics and rights and economics. And the human being has their perception of the world, their memory, their meaning, and their poetics. And architecture is in the middle of this. Architecture deal with all of this. Then there are some radiation that architecture can influence all of these themes. And for me, there are really five themes that are always important. One of them is the idea of landscape, how we deal with the environment, may it be historical, may it be geographical, but what is the place that we are dealing with? The second one is time. How do we deal with time? The present time, the past time, and the future time. Then there's a word that I call like structure, but I could also understand it as order. What's the order, or what are the orders of the project that you are doing? I mean, what are the values of it? What can we seek? What are we looking for? And then there's the theme of matter. We are dealing with material things, and so things exist by becoming real and material. And so matter is really central, because then architecture couldn't exist. And then at last, form. The expression of all this synthesis is form. What does the form means? And I'm not going to extend here in this explanation, but I think that this is the most important, to work with a kind of cloud of themes and concepts and words that may help to guide us for a really profound way of thinking architecture, and trying to orientate our thoughts and our reasons. And what I'm going to share right now are five projects, sorry. I'm not going to explain them completely, because we wouldn't have the precise time, but what I wanted to share with you about these projects are exactly the importance of these spaces of encounter. May it be a urban plan, a museum, a house, all of this, and independent of the size, a project can have this kind of characteristic or this kind of quality. And so this is in real scale. I mean, just to get to know the difference of size of these projects, and how at the end this doesn't matter. This can be in any kind of construction. This is the first one. This is a housing sector. It was a competition that we won almost 2 years ago. And this is located near Brasilia. I hope you can see my mouse cursor. Here is the plan for Brasilia, like this airplane wings, and this is the city of Ceilândia. That it's far from the master plan, but there's a condition of everybody that works in the master plan lives around it, and these are really critical regions because, for example, here is where our project is located, and Sol Nascente is today the second biggest slum in Brazil. It's huge. It's an enormous population, and this new sector would be responsible to house part of this population. And as a planned sector, also, our project was and had around it some real strange things like industrial sector or construction material sector, and it kind of became lonely here, not integrated with any urban tissue. And this side is a rural landscape that we cannot have cities, but just rural things. And what a project like this starts with, I'm sorry for everything being in Portuguese here, but it's just to show you that a urban plan sometimes starts with numbers, with parameters of how the city is going to be built. But on the other hand, we also were searching for some kind of urban meaning, construction meaning. And we went back to the first cities, like Roman cities, that had in an axis found some kind of order and to have a hierarchy in where should parts could exist, public spaces and buildings that would also be collective and sometimes would be private. This also happened in Brasilia, like I'm showing here, and of course in Chandigarh, that I had the opportunity to visit and was incredible. Just to you to get to know the scale, our project is like a half a sector of a Chandigarh sector. And of course, we are talking here about some modern examples of cities organized in functions, but it's not exactly that what we were paying attention, but also the value of the open space and the idea of centrality. And what led us in this process was to work in a social way, in an economic way, and an environment way. How this centrality should deal with these three main themes that would made possible that this place could be like a real vibrating city in all its characteristics. So this was part of the process of design. We have the yellow, the housing buildings, but the other colors are all other uses: schools, markets, hospitals, and the places of these buildings were all thought in order of its relations with the neighbor, with the open spaces, and with the sharing parts of the city. So this is very important. These are the sidewalks, let's say, where people can walk whenever they want. And those are the green areas that are all around, spread all around the city. And this is how the change happened. This is our plan. On this part, it's curious because this place was meant to be a cemetery, and it never happened. They never built anything in this place. And so the government started to thinking about having this housing sector. And also this part is supposed to be another housing sector. And so we have here the city level where you can see this openness of the spaces that you can really go around. And the red parts are always commercial unities with stores and services. So the ground floor of the city is really activated by these uses. And this is what we have as the master plan. Again, what I like to say is that the open areas, the green areas, are really important for all those three meanings: for encounter, for economics, and for social reasons. And one of the points was that the central plaza of this place was supposed to be a lot of things at the same time. First of all, a civic place, a really civic plaza. But on the other hand, what we proposed was a forest and an agronomy forest, because this would produce food, would produce natural ingredients that would be processed by a school of agronomy and engineering of food in this place, and then would be sold in a market that we always proposed here. So it's like a chain that starts with nature and ends with economics, and this generates jobs. This generates exchanges, and also this kind of centrality of simultaneous things. So this is another view of this area, this central area, like I was telling you. This is the market. And also this kind of place that in Brazil is very important. The markets have a great importance in the way people encounter, just not for buying things, but for making events and festivities and all of that. And another thing was the squares, I mean, the blocks that were also formed like a system that should be reproduced, but always having the continuity as a value of walking around and having also places of activity. So what we propose here were also some minor plantation spaces that people could grow smaller things and also sell them and eat them, of course, but also places of entertainment and places of leisure. Again, the red are commerce and stores, and the yellow things are housing that we have like in vertical, at most four floors. And of course, landscape was really important, and also the wetlands that we proposed in the middle of the blocks to also resolve a kind of problem of water system and reusable water that is also important at this scale. I'm going to go here through the last images. And the next project that I like to show you, it's a boulevard in the middle of São Paulo. São Paulo has a problem of topography that is really critical. It's hard to deal with because it's very irregular. And also the rivers. And the rivers floods still until today, of course. And this, in the past, was respected, let's say, by the buildings, because people wouldn't build where the river floods. But as the city grows, this is what happened at the same place that we saw at the last picture. I mean, a real occupied city, and the river is just this line. And so the aerial space of the city ended up being fundamental for the structures of flux and cars. But this is also a problem because, like you can see in this red line, this was a real big infrastructure avenue that was made in São Paulo in the 70s. This is around 5 kilometers that just cut the city in two. And this is what happened. In red, you will see in the next picture that it became just voids. Here we had a theater, and now we had just avenues. This, again, just cut the city in two. And our project was dedicated to rebuild this part of the city. In 1995, the government allowed to use the aerial space, I mean, to build on top of the avenue, following some rules, of course, of height, of tunnel space. And this is where we started our project, proposing a lot of uses, like a real condensed building that would have cultural uses, hotels, stores, and a lot of other important things for this part of the city. But mainly, what was more important to us, it's again the question of centrality, to propose the open space. So this is a sequence of how we have today these bridges and the voids of avenues. And our most important act was to propose some really big plazas that would be open to each part of the zone. And each plaza would have some characteristics, some different characteristics, but this is the most important part. There are things here underground, and there is also the building on top. This is a 300-meter building, but also again, the most important space is what is between the mass that is built under and top, and this place would be occupied in different ways, with uses that would promote the occupation of the surroundings, but mainly this central part that is treated really as just a roof, just like we saw at the Museum of Modern Art, just a protection for people to occupy and use the city. And so what we see here in this yellow are really open spaces that people can walk around freely between the program areas that are more private and more divided. Although we still have cultural spaces like on top, there are also public uses that people can visit. And so I'm going to go faster here on these drawings just to have an idea. This is the avenue. You can see that still go underground, the building. This is the existing bridges. And here is the spaces that this generates. And so, like I said, the open space is really important. And this is a very intense part of the city with a really street life, very, very intense in the all days of the week. And so this is the space I was telling you about. Like here, it could shelter some festivities, some fairs, whatever it is, but a really democratic space. This is just some views of how this presence happens in the city. But besides of the presence, of the physical presence of the building, is what we see here on top, the way the building spreads itself to anchor itself in the city and to create new passages, new occupied spaces. And like I said, it's like an opportunity. We have a problem today with these voids and the fractured city, but this may be an opportunity for us to find situations like that that somehow are waiting for our ideas and our proposals. This is a third project that I would like to show you. This was a competition that took a long time ago, and it's still not finished. So architecture has this kind of condition that things take long sometimes to be finished. And this is a law courts complex, and this is built in Goiânia. That's a city in the interior of Brazil, really close to the capital, Brasilia. And this is also a planned city. All the government buildings are concentrated in this area. But there was a strange thing because this law courts complex was located in a residential area. This is just a historical development consequence, but this made us really worried about the impact of a building that is really big and how a part of the uses of this building we could offer to the city, to this residential area, some space that everybody could use. So these lines are lines that we should respect because a first phase of the project should be built here, and this building was supposed to be preserved. All the rest could be removed. So we respect these lines, and we located one building on this side, and we choose to integrate this like one whole building and create then this void that it's around 100 meters through 60 meters of distance between the buildings. And this ended up to be the most important place of the complex, the open space. Again, the space of encounter. So we have here the forum where the audiences take place. And on the left, we have the second instance that we call here. It's in a law hierarchy. It's some higher that it's not a public accessible area. But this black building that we call it, it's completely accessible. And we also try to work with a very simple geometry that some characteristics of weight, of mass, of even a really simple geometry could also express some kind of really strong presence of this institution in the city. And of course, we had a problem because how to deal with this simple geometry, but for it to still have interest, things that how we get closer to the building, we are still discovering things and seeing that this is just not a square, but it has a lot of other layers for us to see and to discover. And with this, as being a really hot city, the climate's really extreme, we proposed that the surface of the buildings should be protected with a double skin facade. So we have this inner facade, but the exterior facade was made of some kind of really high performance glass that, because of the size of the building, we were able to draw and design everything that was really incredible. And this is the first building that was completed a few years ago that already has this kind of crystal facade that from far you see a black building, really a monolith. But how you get closer to the building, you find it has a little more of details of complexity. And of course, like I said, this started with the preoccupation of climate. We were able to design every part, like I said, but I'm gonna go ahead here. Here you can see this kind of details. These glasses are 3 meters and 60 centimeters high. It's a really big module, and it's hang just by these four fixations that press the glass panel, so it doesn't need to be perforated because this would make the technique just a lot more expensive. And this is the glass. I mean, when you look from the outside, it has this texture, it has this complexity of reflections, of transparency, and of shadows. And this interested us a lot because from far, like I said, the city is a kind of chaotic landscape like every city. And so when you insert a really simple monument, then it comes out, then it becomes evident. And so this is interesting because sometimes we're trying to do things that are really, really crazy, and it's not necessary because the city around is already chaotic and really complex in its composition. And so simplicity sometimes means a lot. And this is the building. This is a 10th floor building. And like I said, the plaza is the main space, all the stairs that we come up and ramps. But also the ground floor of these buildings are open. You can go around, you can walk through the buildings. The underground is also connected. We will see later this main auditorium at the end of this project. Well, and this is the typical floor. that have the public areas all looking to the main void. That was important also as a symbolic act of architecture. And so this is still, the building is still going on. These are the last pictures I took of the construction. The plaza was almost done, but it's still not open. And so we can see that we also created this kind of urban elements uh, to shelter whatever may happen here, like a stage, like benches. We will have water coming up off the ground here, a very interactable thing that we wanted to work with. And this is the new building that is also under construction still, and the main auditorium that I'll talk you about with you about these dots that you are looking here at the ceiling of the auditorium. And I don't know if you can notice here, but all the complex are is thought about this black and white composition, but there are some strips, some stripes here that are red stripes, because in Brazil, red is the symbolic color of justice. And so this is the only color that appears in the serigraphy of the glasses, just as a mention, just as a symbolic mention of what this building is about. This is a photo montage of these contact of these two buildings. Like I said, it's still going on, like construction. And this is the building that was completed, like I said, also a few years ago. I'm gonna go by the pictures for us to have time to see the other two projects. So this is we call the interior plaza because it works like a continuation of the exterior. You find this great void that also has something to do with the Museum of Modern Art of Lina, like an open space. This is the double facade. Um that really helps to protect the building. And we have this kind of solidity, but on the other hand, we have transparency. And this changeable atmosphere of the building was something that really interested us, to see complexity in something that starts in a simple way. And this is the central auditorium that was already completed. This was recent, a few months ago, before the quarantine. And those dots that I told you about are really on the top of these lights. And we have natural light coming in here. Of course, in these pictures, every light is on, so we can feel this. We can't feel this, but this is what happens when the lights are out, and we can control this. And so the wish is that sometimes those lights could be controlled, so we have a part in natural light and part in artificial light. And another important thing is that I don't know if you notice ever, but in the flag of Brazil we have some stars, and these stars represent each state of Brazil. And these dots are located exactly as the stars in our flag. And there's a biggest hole here that represents the state of Goiânia, of Goiás, that is where is located this building. Another project that I like to show you is this small complex of houses that was built in the interior of the state of São Paulo. This is a small city. It's not a big city. But what happened is that housing in Brazil in the last 15 years was really an issue. We had a national plan for housing that was one of the largest plans in the world. But this, unfortunately, was just led by numbers. I mean, the things that the government were trying to resolve was just numbers. People should have houses, but they never thought about the quality of those houses and almost the quality of the city around the houses. And so, just to show you, our project is located right here where my mouse dot is, and you will see what happened around here in a period of 10 years. So this is a really old neighborhood, very horizontal, very residential, and suddenly we have this to happen. A very rational and just housing, just like one function, uh, and a very repetitive way. And a few years later, this is what happened. So this kind of reproduction is very alarming because people are coming to live here. So we have an increase of population, but they are living in this. So, like I said, this is just numbers. This is not city. This is not quality of environment. And there is no identity in here. So, these large scale projects are really dangerous because in Brazil in the 60s and 70s, we already did this. And now we know the problems, but the things that we keep doing. And this is really wrong. And so our project, this is the neighborhood I was showing you before, and our project is here. Like I said, it's a really small scale project compared to what we were seeing. Uh, but we try to respect this kind of environment. The public space in small cities in Brazil are really domestic. People know each other, people go to the neighbor houses. There's a kind of convivence that is really distance of the big cities, and this is really interesting. And so we started the project like organizing the housings in this way. This was like the first thought, the obvious thought. But in a way, in some point of the process, we asked ourselves, what if we turned everything and instead of the houses looking for the city, for the street, sorry, we created a street inside the project that the houses would look into and the city would come into the project. And so this is what happened. The city and the street invades the project. Of course, we can control this, but the fact is that this is possible. So we had two blocks of four houses in each side and an open void in the center that would be a sharing space. This is what happened. Of course, I have some things that I can slide. I have some gates here that I can slide and close this space, but I can keep it open because the door of the house is inside. Uh, and people, like I've been here and in some occasions, and uh, children that just comes inside to play football, and this is interesting. Sometimes people just go by, but even if I don't go inside, I don't have a wall. I don't have violent limits like we are used to see in our cities. At least my eyes are open, and this is really important. I feel part of this, and this is what happened. The limits are lower. I mean, the limits are not rigid or violent. It's instead, on the other hand, we have limits that are more respectable with the city that is outside. And so, like I said, these are four units that are connected by this central core. You will see later how this works. It's like an open plan, really simple. And on the top floor of each one, we have two bedrooms. Those are small houses. This is how we thought the unit, so the space could have a really good compactness. I mean, just to really embrace one unit with each other, so we can liberate the open space. And this is what we have in this central space. There's something important in our culture. I mean, at least in this part of the country, in those small cities, that is this kind of shelter. The veranda in those houses in Brazil are really important because They are always open to the street, and people are used to put their chairs and just sit here and just see the city and the street happen and talk to the neighbors, just take sun and just read something. Or, I mean, this part of the house is really important, and this is something that we tried here uh, to bring to a more contemporary design. Another thing that is important when you look at this facade, it's really hard to recognize if it is one house or if it is two houses or if it is four houses. We can't really recognize this, and this is something that we thought about. I mean, it's supposed not to be easy because people are living together. So it was important for us to not each one see your own house like a divided volume, but yes, as an integrated volume. Everybody that lives here in these four houses are living in the same building, in the same place. So I need to respect this total condition because it's not just mine. It's also of my neighbors and of my other neighbor. And so, although I have my own house, I share this architecture with the other. And of course, this also made us look for some gestures that would indicate very lightly, like this cut in the ceiling, that it's where some unit ends and the other one starts. Two of them have stairs opening to the center space, and like we saw here, another one has stairs opening to the back space, like we are going to see in one of the next slides. So this is the space I was telling you about, the veranda, the porch, uh, and also this transparency. We can see the end of the house there. And so if you are in the private patio, you can see the streets and vice versa. I mean, this kind of openness was really important also to us. Like this, you can just leave your door open, and this really happens because, like I said, this is a small city, and they have the privilege of living like this. The windows are also really important things for us to bring light or just to see the sky. And this is the back patio that all the units have, and this is one of the stairs that we have on the back side. I mean, here we see that with architecture compared with the existing context, of course, it's different. But I'd like to call this not as difference, but as a contemporary interpretation version of the traditional characteristics that we have in these cities. The important thing is that we don't have grades, and we don't have this walls or things that are rigid. Things are flexible, and like I said, it can be opened, it can be closed. But the question is that the city and the public, yes, can invade the private space in a good way. And so, just to finish, I'm gonna really fast to go by this last project. That it's a house that we completed last year, and this house also has this own concerning. The place was really beautiful because it's like really involved with nature, but it's a condominium. I don't know if it's the right word to say, but we're gonna have houses around here, and we wanted to work with this fact because things may change in the future, but we wanted to keep in the house its relation with what is outside and also with this kind of privacy and intimacy that the houses must have. I mean, this was a challenge how to keep looking to the outside, but always to preserve an intimacy that every house also should have. And so we started with a volume that it's like the other projects. It looks simple, but it has a lot of complexity in its inside, that it's a volume that guards what happens behind it. And what happens behind it is exactly this open space, this more collective space of the house, where people are together, where people share. And so this is kind of the strategic organization of the program of the house. Like most of users are inside this wood volume, but the open space is a sequence of patios and plazas that we called, of gardens, that will be different in each moment that it's open to the street, or on the opposite, it's really protected by the intimacy of the house. So, like I said, we can see the main volume, but also the sequence of patios and gardens that establishes what is the collective functions of the house. So, in gray, we see what is sheltered, what is inside the house, and this is what outside the house. This is the upper floor, and here we have the wood volume that also shows itself as something very hermetic or closed, but the window was a theme here. How to deal with the openings, and although these things looks closed, it has a lot of moments that it opens and closes, and it's not static. It's a very dynamic facade that can be changed by who is inside and who wants to be protected of the sun or open to the landscape. And so at night we have this opposite image, that is the transparency, like a lamp that illuminates from the inside out. And also some kind of design that would indicate where to go inside, where do you enter this house. And this is the other facade that, like I said, you can also here be in contact with this open area that is involved by these two lines, a horizontal line and a vertical line. And so this is the exterior part of the house, but all the activity is housed in between those plates. And you will see also that part of these plates are movable. So you can open, but you can also create shadows. So you can, whenever you want, be protected by those planes, metal planes that rotate, and you will see in the next pictures. And also, this main volume is has a lot of subtractions, and so open space can happen inside. This is the main entrance where there is no actual door. You don't open a door, but it's almost like a passage where in the inside you are still in the outside. It's kind of transitional space where you can see the sky, where you still are opened to nature, and then you go inside. This kind of path of promenade is something beautiful to think in architecture, because you put the person that is walking in some kind of really delicate transition between what is outside and what is inside, what is nature and what is artificial, what is built, until you get to the interior that still has very open characteristics. I say we are always looking outside, always looking outside. And so this is the front garden where this papyrus, this vegetation, brings some kinds of privacy to the interior, and also like a nature that emerges from the ground. And you have this continuity. Like I said, on the right, we have the living area, but here on the left, we have the main front garden. And on the back, this continuity just keeps going. But we look to the more intimacy area with the rotating plates, with the swimming pool, really small, like here on the back, but mainly the garden as a place of leisure and as a place of staying, of living outside for the family. And again, this open space is not just limited to this ground floor, but it goes up to the top floor where we have this terrace that it's really beautiful because you put people in another level to see the landscape that it's really far, and also the sunset that it's just like we are looking at this picture. And so, like I said, it's a house, but we can also think about the consequences of the architecture to what is outside, and how people also deal with the collective space. So, just to finish, I'd like to make a question, because I think architecture is something that we look for, is something that we should worry and how to achieve architecture. And I think in these experiences and some questions that guide me, I don't think they are absolute answers, of course, but they have changed through time and they will keep changing through time. But I think these are things that we should always think about when we try to achieve what architecture may be. We have to have a sensible perception of the world. I mean, we have to be sensible. We have to be sensible because we are dealing with sensible things like nature and mainly like people. We have to understand our time. And like I said before, not just our time as being present, but what is to think things that exist for a while. Architecture doesn't last for a day or for a week. Architecture usually lasts for a long time. So, what does this mean? Other thing is about the values, the ethical values that are behind our decisions. This is really important. It's a question of again of ethics, and to see that our choices as architects really influence the people that will use them later. Uh, and the social responsibility, we have to fight against inequality, and the spaces may be part of this. Yes, the quality of the spaces. Another thing is the meaning that I've been talking here a few times. We really offer new meanings for people, and what this means about our memory, our memories, our experiences, our feelings. So this is about meanings. And just to end it, the really importance that we have to pay attention is that we are living together. So we are encountering ourselves. And these senses of encounter, I think, may be the last, not most important, not less important, but maybe the most important feeling, that we are living together, we are encountering each other. And this happens in the city, this happens in architecture. So I think we have a lot to contribute, not lonely. Of course, architecture is not a lonely discipline. We are dealing with a lot of other professionals, and all of us are responsible to go for these goals and objectives, where architecture may, yes, play a very important role. So this is what I was wanted to share with you. Again, thank you so much, and I hope you like this. And I like to end saying that India is inside myself as a spirit, and I hope we can talk a lot. And this door may be open for a long time. Thank you so much.